Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamaduchyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vasishyati. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, first day of the Upanishad. Yesterday was just an introduction. So, if you are not discouraged by the introduction, you are still here for the learning. Yeah. I'm just thinking whether we should touch Upanishads here and there or start with one and proceed. One? Somebody saying this. Chris. Anyway, it has to be the Upanishad. So, before we go into the text of the Upanishads, I want to explain something to you and then we will go. I told you yesterday that, well, you know it, you must have read, or I told you before, I told you yesterday that Adi Shankara has, and which is true, interpreted the word shad in the Upanishad as shaking up. So shaking up, which means to shake up your so-called or ordinary logic based on the impressions of the five senses. It is important to understand the concept of the Upanishad. Like what we normally call our rational framework, which we have concluded, this is our rational framework, is based entirely on the impressions we gather through our five sense organs, which is processed by the mind. If you want to call it the brain, I'm okay with that. And then presented as the truth or reality. These are ordinary, normal, not ordinary. Normal idea of our so-called irrational framework which we have created. Some of these are common because most of us have the same, all of us have the same sense organ, so much of it is common. Some may be different depending upon how the data that comes from the sense organs is then, interpreted, digested, and made into a pattern, into a design. So while it's generally so mostly, because we all possess the same sense organs, five, unless there is a sixth sense organ we don't know about. And processing it, we come to a conclusion. And from the Upanishad's point of view, conclusion itself is a problem. Anyway, we'll go to that later. So this is the normal means by which we create our rational framework. It is good to be rational, because we have none other than the five senses. But when it applies to things which are beyond the five senses, then this rational structure that we have created falls short. This is what the Upanishad is trying to say. And plus, a great deal of the information that we gather, the data that we gather through our sense organs, could also be lopsided and not real. People with different sets of instruments of perception may see the same thing as different. not only physical, not only the mind, but also physically. Like, I've explained this several times before. Suppose I see a round object here. Dangerous. If we look at let's say, a round object here, and conclude that it is round, because my eyes say that it is round, and I also conclude that it is big or small, depending on my relative bigness or smallness, and say that this is big or small. Now look at it. No need to imagine anything. It's a truth. Eye is one of my instruments of perception. I see this and conclude that it is round, and it is global or whatever, globular, or it's of this size, right? Now if you look carefully and see, why does my eye, which mostly your eyes also, because all of us in general, there are exceptions, are made with a certain set of optical instruments. Eye. All of us have a convex lens in the eyes. It's not a concave lens. And most of us have roughly the same power. When it goes less or more, then you get glasses or contacts or whatever. But generally, average, same. Therefore, because we have a certain kind of optical apparatus, which is the eye with its lens, convex lens, we see this as a round object. And because most of its powers are the same, lens power, therefore we see it as only this big. Imagine you were born with the lens in the eye like a magnifying glass. You see this? Huge. But we are not born like that. So therefore we conclude that this is only this much. Just imagine some other creature which has an eye, whose lenses are different. How would it feed this data? It would say this thing which we call a microphone, depending on the lens, is a tiny little dot or a huge globe. And since this goes in from the sense organs, it is processed by the mechanism called the brain or the mind, and concludes, yes, this is it. And everybody agrees, because if everybody has the same kind of eye or instrument, we all agree, yes, it is so. As I said, what about the creature which has another set of eyes, which are different? What would that creature conclude? Might even say it's a square. And we will call it a circle if you like, but it will be a square which is being called a circle, and for years we call it a circle, so therefore it's a circle. I don't know if you're looking at this carefully. For instance, when I look at an elephant, we think that the elephant might have roughly the same eyes as we have. I have a doubt. I think it sees us and thinks we are huge creatures. And so it's a little concerned. If it sees us as we are, tiny little pygmies, what would it care? It won't care. Now, the common housefly has compound eyes. I mean, many eyes put together. How would it see an object? Different. Instead of one, it will see many microphones. And it would think it is one. So the microphone may appear you have to get into the fly's brain to understand, but I don't know. It may appear to the fly to be a cluster of round things like a flower. And if the fly is taught from childhood that there is only one and it is round, it would say, yes, it is one and it is round. What is one? The cluster. Of course we will believe it because that is what we get, the sense impressions. Now, this is the eye. It is the same with all sense organs. As far as the mind is concerned, it draws all its data from the instruments of perception, from the five senses: eye, ear, sparsha, touch, smell and taste, of which in today's world the most important thing everybody, I think, is eye and tongue. Other things are subsidiary. Beautiful, buy a car, I want a red one. It appeals to me. And taste, we know. Taste. Incidentally, today morning's idiyappam was very nice. I don't know if you all got it, I got it. So, again it is prejudiced, because when my mother used to make idiyappam, so I loved this idiyappam. If my mother used to make toast in the morning, I would love that better. The mind also has its, even if it's the taste, it has its own different taste, right? I know for one person, what is honey may be poison for the other. It's so relative. All I'm trying to say, the Upanishads are trying to tell you that all the sense impressions that you gather are relative to your instruments of perception, and therefore they may be real, but relatively real, not absolutely real. And they're also saying that there is something which is absolutely real, which is beyond the concept of any of our sense organs or the mind. And because it is outside the circuit of the sense organs and the mind, it is not relative, it's absolute. This is what they're trying to say. Now, whether that is being with a personality or is just not, all that is a different matter. But all they're trying to say is that there is something which is beyond the definitions of our sense organs and our mind, and that it is not based on speculation or the images that we gather from the outside world. And because it is there, it is the witness to everything that is happening, which is changing, and that which is the witness is unchanging. This is the Upanishadic theory, basically. Now the good news is, that thing which is the witness of everything, which is unchanging and which is not changing or which is not prejudiced by the different sense organ impressions of the mind, also happens to be in all of us. This is the good news. Not that it is some entity which is there, but what have we to do with it? It's your innermost core of your being, and it is the self. So when we move ourselves out of all the different layers which we think is the self, based on our impressions of your sense organs and your mind, then you come across your true self. When you see that, that self is no different from that absolute being which is pure witness. In fact, you go a step further, you can't even call it a witness because there is nothing to witness. Everything is one. This is the basic theory on which the Upanishad works, and it is not a theory, it's based on the understanding, and I won't say experience, because in an experience you need an experiencer, something to be experienced. Both are same here. This is what the Upanishad is trying to do. So therefore, you may find it different when you go into it, unlike the other texts that may be followed another 1,000 years later. This is the earliest. which means no definition that you can make with your mind or with your sense organs, anything, can ever touch the actual truth, which is beyond all definitions. Even what I am saying happens to be, in a way, a definition. It's beyond. Therefore, the Upanishad declares, Yad vacha na abhyutitam yana vaga abhyutyate, Keno Upanishad. That which words cannot describe. What did Katha Upanishad? I am Atma pravachanena labhya, that which cannot be found through too much talk or pravachana. And the Keno Upanishad, vajana abhyutitam yana vaga, that which words cannot understand or explain or which is futile these 2 days. No, but then if you are not here, how do you know that? So, it is beyond. And then it says, Vachana vinavag tadeva brahmatvam vidhi. That alone is the Brahman. Oh, disciple, listen. Not you, disciple. Nedam yaddidam upasate, nothing that you worship here. That's a sweeping statement. That came 2000 years before Krishnamurti. So, this is what we are dealing with. This is what I wanted to tell you. So, several Upanishads. So, when do you find it? How does one find it? So, in the next sloka of the same we read yesterday, it said that it cannot be found because it has to find you as long as certain qualities are not present in you, negative qualities. So, all of spiritual development from the Upanishadic point of view is to clear yourself from all those things which prevent it from being perceived, of which the most important, core, other things are subsidiary, is the ego. The ego which says, yes, I know the Brahman, does not know the Brahman. The Upanishad says, he who knows, knows not, and he who knows not, knows. When I understand that this cannot be found by any of my mental acrobatics, and when I retire, when my mind becomes silent and quiet, I'm not doing anything with my... then perhaps the self reveals itself. You can't force the self to reveal itself. Where is it? It's you. Who is asking whom to reveal? Now, this also happens in case of... now this is Vedanta, this is the Upanishad. It also happens in the case of people. Some people, while they are still young, come into this world fed up of the world. It's not everybody's cup of tea that. Some people come from childhood, they know that we are here, okay. You eat your rice and mocher jhol, but there is nothing much out here. Why? Because perhaps the only explanation you can give that for many lives they have searched and been battered here and there, and they come back and say, no, all my definitions are nonsense. So from childhood they are looking for that openness, that fulfillment. And some of them might consider the divine to be in a form or a name and something like that. That's okay. Problem is not how you look at it, but how you are, how the mind is. So, when you'll find in such people, when they are very young, that they have kind of understood that it all depends on that and not on me. And so they have what is called surrendering to the deity. But that surrender is not an artificially created surrender. It happens because many lives have tried, and it doesn't seem to happen. Because it's not on me. When that happens, people say, oh, this is grace. The problem is, grace is not as rare as you think it is. It is everywhere. Grace is everywhere. It's like the breeze that blows. It's like the air that you live in. It's everywhere. But our windows and doors are closed. What are they closed with? Our ego, our own preconceived ideas, our own thing. Yes, I will do. So if you can first to even sense it, you need to clean the windows first. And then open them. Which means nobody who lives all his life in an AC room will discover the Brahman. No, I'm joking. Possible. Open the doors and the windows now. After you have opened the doors and the windows, you cannot say, okay, at 2 o'clock I want you to come in here. Not possible. Who can control the breeze? So, first step, open the windows. This is what sadhana is all about. And the hardest door to crack is one's own ego. Ego means what? I know. This is the biggest ego. Not that I have something, I know. When that door is opened, still breeze will come only at its own accord. But when it comes, your windows and doors are not closed. It blows. And then you say, this is great. That's it, finished, problem solved. So this is all that the Upanishad is trying to say. It's not taking you to some unattainable, unattainable because no self-effort can take you there, except keeping the ground ready. That much we need to. Can't say, if it is like that, okay, then I lead my life as I want. What will I do? I have the spirit in the bottle. I will play cards, I will do horse riding. So it's there, right? It's always, so what do I mind? No. You can theoretically say it is there, but it won't happen. You won't know it. You need certain preparations. And the entire literature, spiritual literature that we have, is the preparation. For that, nobody can do anything. When one understands this perfectly, there is something called surrender. First, it cannot be seen with the sense organs. You know the famous story in the Upanishad about how, I won't do that, it will become a repetition. I did the same thing last time. Do you want me, if you give me permission, I'll do it. Those who came last time. Or we can go on to one Upanishad. I'll do one Upanishad, of course, but just preparing the ground, digging. How many of you were there for the last retreat? You know what? I'm sure you wouldn't have fully grasped all that, right? Sorry. And so let's do it again. You know that every Upanishad forms part of a Veda. When you say Veda, it includes the Upanishad. So let me make this, because it's linked, so let me make you. I know you, by now you would know it because you have come for so many classes, I want to call it a class because I don't want you to feel that it's a discourse. You know what I mean? So, What is that? Yeah, okay. So when you say Veda, it means 4 portions: Samhita, Brahmanas, Aranyaka, and Upanishad. All these 4 inclusive is what you call a Veda. So the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Sama, every Veda has a Upanishad attached at the end, which is the Jnana Kanda. The rest are all mostly Karma Kanda. The Jnana Kanda, or the wisdom section, begins with Aranyakas, which slowly blend into the Upanishads. And therefore every Veda, now when you say Veda, it includes all the 4, not just the Samhitas. What is the most famous mantra from the Rig Veda Samhita? Oh, people from India at least, please. Huh? I think they know also. Others also know. The Gayatri. And the Gayatri mantra comes from Rig Veda Samhita, 126 mandala. The Rishi is Vishwamitra. But it is not an Upanishad. Upanishad comes at the end. You will find that most of the Upanishads are attached more to the next 3 Vedas: Sama Veda, Atharvana Veda, Yajurveda, and Atharvana Veda. Because 85% of the Sama Veda is Rig Veda. And there is no need to have a special attachment there, except that it is sung. The Rig Veda is chanted, the Sama Veda is sung. All music starts in India from the Sama Veda. And the Sama Veda is so important, so music is so important, sound is so important, that Krishna, Vyasa makes Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita, among the Vedas, I am the Sama Veda. He didn't say Rig Veda. Sama Vedosmi, I am the Sama Veda. So in the Sama Veda, there are a few Upanishads attached, of which the most important is the Keno Upanishad. Now this Keno Upanishad is a very abstract Upanishad. People don't like to read it generally, because it starts with a question. Nobody likes to be questioned, right? And the question is terrible. It says, who the hell do you think you are? Not in this language, but who are you? It starts with the question. Actually, the word Keno means who. So it's who. Who are you? What is the origin of this universe? Who is behind the origin of this entire universe? Why they use the word who? Is because whatever they are looking at, the origin is not a material thing but conscious. So who? Otherwise they would have said what? It's conscious. Essence of all being. So it starts with that. Kene shidam patati prasitam manaha. What is the first? Who is it that gives the first impulse to the mind? When the mind is quiet, right? When you go to sleep, nothing is there, everything is gone. When you wake up, it says, I, and then you. What is it that starts the first impulse of thought? Kineshitam patati prasitam manaha. Kena prana prasama prayati yuktaha. Who is it that gives the first impulse to the movement of life? Prana. And everything was silent. Where did it start the breathing? You know, life starts with breathing. In and out. Without that breath, life doesn't exist. There are other religions where it is described that God made man. Well, in Upanishadic point of view, nobody made anything, it's always there. Anyway, God made man and then He breathed the breath of life into him. Then only he became alive. So the breath of life. So what is or who is behind the first impulse of breath? Kena prana prathama prayati yukta. Who gives the first impulse to prana? You know, when a baby is born, the first breath it takes is the cry that you hear. Life begins. And then the last cry you hear when it ends. And if you know who you actually are, what you actually are, then the last one can end in a laugh. No need to cry. So anyway, relax. Kene vacham imam vadanti, who gave meaning to the first word that was uttered. My translation. Kena prana prathama prayati yukta. Kene vacham imam vadanti. When I first utter the word, first word, what do I say? I, before everything else comes. Who is it that is the first impulse for that I? Then, Chakshu, Shrotram, Kaudeho Yunati. When I say I see, when I say I hear, who is the one who hears and who is the one that sees? We think that we are seeing, but look, even sight, just think how complex the matter is. It's not so simple. Because we have eyes, there's nothing to talk about, but it's a complex matter. The light falls on an object, it reflects into the eye, it goes into the retina registers it, optic now takes it to the brain, I process and say, this is Vandana. Though it happened so fast. Who is it that is managing this, behind all this? This is how it starts. So it's a very abstract Upanishad. In fact, it doesn't even give much explanation in a way. Answer to the first shloka, it says it is the eye of the eye, the ear of the ear, and so on. So you don't know what you're trying to do. So anyway, now the same Upanishad, in the end, has a beautiful story. And the story is that the Supreme Being, who cannot be felt by the senses, the Supreme Being which is all-pervading, which is the cause of the entire universe. Don't ask me why. Sometimes I think it's fun, like playing billiards. Anyway, the Supreme Being looks from there and sees that all the powers of nature, the wind and the fire, the sense organs, all of them have become so egotistic and full of ego, saying that we have this power to do this, to do that. The wind says, I can do anything, I can blow the world off. And the fire says, I can burn anything down. So the Supreme Reality, who, because of whom, Upanishad is Keno Upanishad, all this is possible for them to do, they have forgotten it. They think we are doing it. We are also like that, right? When we are in suffering, then we all pray, oh God, please help us. When we win, finished, one agarbatti, and that's the end of it. Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. Nanak. So, this, the Supreme Reality wants them to understand that this is nonsense. You have to know where you come from. So, the Supreme Being, it's a story of course, appears Now this is most important also for people who are so-called spiritual teachers. You know, the moment their ego becomes too much and they think they are everything, the fall starts. Pride goes before a fall, Shakespeare. Anyway, so if I'm behaving like that, please pull me up. So anyway, so this supreme reality, this being, decides to try out these guys. So it appears in the form of a Yaksha. When you say Yaksha, it means a being with no known form, but which is conscious and moved. A being that cannot be defined, which is not human, which is not divine, somewhere in between. We would say a vague something, but which can communicate. In fact, as you go deeper and deeper into meditation, into your inner psyche, the first step before you touch that which is beyond is that intermediate stage of an Yaksha, where you are aware you're there, you can do certain things, you can speak, you can communicate, but then you're not like physical things. The highest stage of being, you cannot even communicate. It just stays. So the Supreme Brahman has to step down a few steps before he can communicate this to you. So the Yaksha appears out there. I'm sorry that I'm searching for it indicates I have not done my homework. I'm a very lazy man, Really. Laziness, ultimate laziness, is the key of life. Please don't take it. don't take it literally. You know what Narayana does after everything? Ananta Sayana, unending sleep. The mind knows somewhere that in the end all this is nonsense, you just keep quiet. That's why laziness comes. But then we say, no, we have been taught, no, we shouldn't be lazy. Get up, work. And then it reminds me of reminds me of a story about a man who was lying on a charpai in the village in Haryana, let's say, somewhere outside. And had good roti and dal. And so he's laying there, maybe smoking a bidi, I don't know. If he was non-sick, then maybe. And then a man goes to him, feels very sorry, but what is this man? You're lying here, wasting your time. He said, oh, so what do you want, man? He said, you do this, then you'll make some money, okay? Then you do this, then you'll make more money, okay? And you can buy a car, you can have a big house, you can have enough to give to your children, and then he said, then you can relax happily. But so this guy said, why are you disturbing me? I'm already relaxing. You go talk your corporate things to other people. So it's similar. Anyway. Please don't become lazy and say, Shriyam told us to be lazy. But everybody knows that I work very hard. Ask all people who are with me. I work very hard, but I am lazy. When it comes to my own things, I am lazy. Now, I have another weakness, love for this language. So I'm sorry if I take some time. It's section 3 of the Keno Upanishad, if you decide to go home and read. Brahmaha devebhyo vijigye tasyaha brahmano vijaye deva amahiyanta ta aikshanta asmakam evayam vijayo asmakam evayam mahima iti. That Brahman, the Supreme, they say, the Rishi has a nice way of saying, they said, conquered once for the gods meaning Agni, Vayu, conquered once for the gods. And the gods glorified in this conquest of the Brahman. They thought, ours indeed is this victory, and ours indeed is this greatness. The Brahman conquered everything for them, and they rejoiced, saying, this is what we have done. We have conquered. Let's enjoy. Tad haisham vijajno tebhyoha pradurvabhuva tanna vajanata kim idam akshamiti. So the Brahman said to himself, I know this conceit of theirs has to be taken off somehow. They have reached such a high power and energy, but they have this one little conceit that stops them from discovering me. So let me go and figure out how it is. So he appeared before them. Vyajanata kimmidam yakshamidi. They couldn't understand what is this yaksha standing. It was standing little far. Right? No proper form, but don't look, there's nothing there. So, first Agni said. So, they were all standing in a group. Just like we all stand in a group. And they said to Agni first, because Agni is considered to be Jata Vedas, the knower of all the Vedas. All the sacrifices that we do, you need Agni. Agni is the most important, and it can burn anything down. Have you seen any fire you light? You hold it down, it will still burn up. It's a symbol of the spirit. It's a symbol of combustion. It's a symbol of desire, worldly as well as higher. Right? You're consumed by the desire to do something, which means what? Fired by the desire to act. So fire is so important. So fire is a very superior god. For ages, sacrifices are done with fire, and Agni is worshipped. It's also that which ignites. Agni. Igne. So they said to Agni, the other gods, oh Jata Vedas, go find out who this spirit is. He said, yes. He hastened towards it. Tad abhyadravat. He rushed towards it. Tam abhyavadat. Before he could ask the Yaksha who you are, the Yaksha asked him a question. Tam abhyadavat koshiti. That Yaksha asked Agni, who are you? Because problem is that, right? Imagine somebody comes to you in great style and you ask him, hey, who are you? You can imagine how terrible it would be. Anyway, the Yaksha asked Agni, who are you? Agnir, va aham asmi iti abravit, jata veda aham asmi iti. Agni answered, I am Agni indeed, don't you know? I am the Agni, the fire. I am Jata Vedas, I have the knowledge of all the Vedas. Yaksha asked him, Tasmin stvai kim viryam iti. What power is there in you? Can you tell me? You say you are Jatavedas, you are mighty Agni. What power do you have? Apidam sarvam deheyam yaddidam prithivyamiti. Agni said, look, Agni, sorry, not Agni. Agni said, I can burn everything whatsoever down there is on this earth. There's nothing that escapes me, I can burn everything down. Tasmai trinam nidadho yetaddaha iti. So this Yaksha placed a blade of grass before him, from humble blade of grass, and said, burn this. Tad upaprayaya sarva javena tannasha shakha dagdhum tatatha eva nivaprate naitad ashakam vijnatum yatte tadyaksham. So he could not burn that little blade of grass that Yaksha put before him. He rushed at it with all his might. No chance. The blade of grass was still there. So he went back. And he told them, I don't know who this Yaksha is. This is impossible, because I can burn the earth. He plucked the grass before my eyes and put the blade of grass before me, and I cannot burn it now. This is not possible. I don't know who this Yaksha is. Beyond my understanding. At least Agni understood that it is beyond his understanding for the first time. So it means Agni started his discovery there. When he said, this is beyond my understanding, I don't know. I'm not able to burn the little blade of grass that he put before me. Atha vayam abruvan vyaya vetad vijanihi kim etadakshamiti. Then they said to Vayu, oh Vayu, oh air, please go and figure out who this is. Vayu hastened towards him. Tadapyadravat. Same question. Tam abhyavatat koshiti. Who are you? Vayurvaham asmiti. Abhravin matarishvaham asmiti. And Vayu said, I am Vayu indeed. Don't you know? I am the mighty wind. I am Matarishwan. So the Yaksha asked him, so what do you do? What power do you have? Tasmin stoi kim viryamiti. Kim viryamiti. Apidam sarvam adhidayam yaddidam prativyamiti. And Vayu said, I can blow up everything, whatever is there on this earth. That's my strength. Which means you cannot, if you really want to find the Brahman, if that is your real intention, the truth, you cannot break the gate or break the fort and rush inside with a cannon. Not going to work. Vayu, the mighty wind, which is also the cyclone, which is also the hurricane, which is also the breath of life in us, without which we cannot live for a single minute. Vayu. Vayu said, I can blow the whole earth away. So the Yaksha put the same blade of grass which it had put before Agni and said, blow this off. Tasmai trinam nitadho etat atatsveti. Blow this off. Tad upaprayaya. He tried hard. Sarva javena, with all his strength. Tannasha shakadatum. Not possible to do. Blow it off. So tatha eva nivabrate. He returned And he also said, Naitad ashakam vijñātum yat etad yakshamiti. I don't know who this yaksha is. This is terrible. I tried to blow the blade of grass away. It's not possible for me. Who is this yaksha? I've never seen anything like this in my life. And I'm the cyclone. Hurricane. I think I can blow my way into any place. I am the cyclone. Sorry, no. Then he said, I don't know, and he came back. And then only Indra is left now. Indra is the Lord of all gods, because all the gods are the five senses. Indriyas, Panchendriya. The one who governs the Indriyas is Indra, the Lord of all that you see, because the five senses that govern the universe, right? So Indra is the Lord of all gods, because we are all gods who run by the five senses, and he is the chief out there. So Indra said, let me. He thought, these brothers of mine are useless, let me do it. I am the Lord of all gods. So they said to him, Iti Indram Abruvan, Bhagavan, oh Bhagavan, it's like saying Bhagavan, please find out who this spirit is. Etad vijñānihi kim etad akshamiti tadeti. He said, okay. Tad abhradravat, he also went. Tasmat tiro dadhe. Now what happened? When Indra, the Lord of all gods, went towards the Yaksha, he couldn't see the Yaksha anywhere. From far he could see. When he went there was no Yaksha there. He said, maybe he disappeared seeing me. I couldn't find the Yaksha. So he came back and said, I don't know who this is. When I went, I couldn't see him, but I am sure he was there. Which means the five senses cannot apprehend the Supreme Being. They can speculate, but they cannot apprehend the Supreme Being because he is beyond the ken and the reach of the five sense organs. So when all the five sense organs are quiet, and when the internal sense organs like the mind are quiet, then perhaps that Supreme Reality is understood. You can't do it this way. So they came back. Now what happened? Suddenly, this Upanishad is very funny. From the abstract to the concrete, and from the concrete to the abstract, from the abstract to the concrete. Suddenly there is a concrete happening there. What is that? Tasmin evakashe striyam ajagama bahushovananam Uma Haimavatim tamho vaja kim etad. Suddenly these gods saw a beautiful lady standing there. You know what happened? There was a yogi. There were 3 yogis living in a temple, Gopala temple, looking after the temple. Now, the king of that country was a wonderful king. I mean, he was very generous to people, but there was one condition. Every evening, all the citizens who need help from the king should go before the king in the darbar and stand before him with folded hands and say, you are the greatest in the world, you are the God of gods, you are the... and therefore, and then the king would say, oh, give him gold, give him gold, give him gold. But in this temple, in his country, in this king's country, there were these 3 brahmacharis who were the looking after the Gopala there. They wouldn't go. It went on for 1 year, 2 years. Then the king said, this is bad. Other people might take this as an example and not come and bow down to me. So he asked his minister, what do you suggest? How do we get these guys? Minister thought about it and said, well, I have a plan. What is that? He said, in the neighboring countries there are 3 beautiful damsels. The king said, what has this to do with this? He said, employ them in the temple for some time. I'm thinking about this Bahushovamana, beautiful lady who appeared. Get 3 of them employed in the temple. King said, is that going to work? Try. We employed them. Every time they used to come once or twice, do some cleaning and go off. Then the brahmachari said, come one few more times and clean the temple. So they started few more times. And then finally they all fell in love. Each brahmachari married one. On the 3rd day they were all before the king. You are the greatest. So they have to buy anklets, they have to buy various things. You are the greatest. Please give us. So in the same way, a lady appeared. But this is a beautiful divine lady. And this lady was Haimavati. That is Uma, the daughter of the Himalayas. Uma, the daughter of the king of the Himalayas, appeared before them in concrete form. Bahushovamana, very beautiful. She appeared. Which is why the Shaktas say, if ever you want to know the Supreme Shivam, you have to go through Shakti. Even in this story, it is Parvati, the feminine, who reveals the truth to the gods. So, anyway, he came, she stood there, and they said to her, what is the spirit that we just saw? Can you tell us? She said, Sa Brahmaeti Hovacha. This is the Brahman, the Supreme Being, to be sure. It is the victory of the Brahman that you glorify yourself in. The glory belongs to the Brahman and you glorify yourself. Then they came to know what the Brahman is. They were all ready except that one thing, which is what? The ego said, we are doing everything. Parvati helped them to get rid of it. Anybody else wouldn't have been possible to do that. Because Parvati was so attractive, they couldn't help but turn to her. And she said this, and they said, who is this? Do you know? She said, it is the Supreme Brahman. It is his glory that you are celebrating, thinking it's your glory. Understand this. And they understood the Brahman. Therefore, these gods, Agni, Vayu and Indra, they surpass other gods. Why? Because they were the ones that first touched the Brahman or went near the Brahman. Closest. For they indeed for the first time knew that it was Brahman. The word used here is that they were the ones that went closest to Brahman, which means you cannot become the Brahman, but you can go as close as possible, because when you go very close, then you are burnt off. It's like going near the sun, then there is only the sun. They were the first ones who went as close as possible. And then they realized that this is the Supreme Brahman. When they discarded the ego, that they were the most powerful, and realized that the power came from the Brahman. About this Brahman, there is the teaching. Tasyesha adesho yat etad vidyuto vyadhyutada itin naimi mimshata iti adidaivatam. Of this Brahman, there is a teaching. This is as it were like the lightning which flashes forth, or the winking of the eye. That means when it is understood like a flash of lightning, or as fast as the winking of an eye, when it is understood. Everything else is the way towards understanding it. None of us are equal in strength to Vayu or Agni or Indra. So better we cut our tails and relax. So this is the teaching of the Upanishad. And we'll come back and we will have some more of some other Upanishad. So now. Thank you very much. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.